Hi everybody, this is Crystal. So today I'm going to show you how to make this beanie here. Now this should fit head circumference size in between 19 to 22 inches. And let's check the length of it. Length of it is about 8.5 inches, and if you want it longer like a slouchy, you could just do more rows or add a longer brim at the bottom. I'll talk about that later on in the video. But I like it. I think it turned out really nice. Now I do have a stitch tutorial on how to make this stitch in a back and forth method so you can make a scarf to match. Now I'll put the link to that below. That way you can have a matching hat and scarf set. I don't wear scarves too often, so I will only probably just wear this hat. So I'm not going to make the scarf myself, but you definitely can if you want the complete set. This hat is also worked in a continual round, so you'll need a stitch marker. What that means is we just keep going round and round and round. We do not end each round in a slip stitch. That way there is no visible seam on the hat whatsoever. So as you can see, it is completely seamless. So let's go ahead. It's easy too. It's not hard to do. It's single crochets and then these puff stitches actually, and that's just about it. And the puff stitches are very easy to do. It's worked top down. So let me set it to the side here and we'll talk about the yarn I use. So here's the yarn I use, and this is Ice Yarns Picasso. It is a 44 acrylic 56 polyester blend, and it is classified as a medium weight number 4. It's 115 meters, so close to 130 yards per ball, and I use about a ball and a half, so you probably need about 200 yards of a 4 weight for this particular hat here. And then I'm going to be using, you don't have to use this yarn, any 4 weight yarn will look excellent. As you can see, this is variegated. It looks super cool. Striped yarn would look awesome. An ombre would look very pretty, and even solid would look magnificent. And then we're going to be using a size J, which is a 6mm crochet hook. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that like button. Leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think, and let's go ahead and get started on this. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start off with a slip knot on our hook. So this is worked top down. And let's go ahead and work a chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll slip stitch into our first chain to form a ring. I always like to throw my tail over and grab my yarn and then put my middle finger in between the hook and the chain, and then I do my slip stitch. That just helps keep that center circle open so you can work in it better. So we're going to chain 1, and that is not going to count as a stitch. What we're going to do is we are going to work 10 single crochets through the center of the ring. So remember, that chain 1 doesn't count. So we're going to go through the center of the ring and draw up a loop. We're going to make 10 single crochets. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you need to slide them over, that's fine. Alright, there's 10. Now you can pull your tail, close up that circle a little bit, and later on we can sew it together the rest of the way. So now we're going to be working in a continual round. So you're going to need some type of stitch marker to keep your spot. I'm going to use a piece of yarn. So I'm going to stick it right here at the end of round 1. That way I know where I end and where I begin. So you should have 10 single crochets now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and single crochet into the first, if I can get it, into the first single crochet, like that. And then we are going to do a puff into the next. So we're going to go into the next stitch without yarning over and draw up a loop. And then we're going to yarn over and go into the same stitch and draw up a loop. And then one more time we're going to yarn over and go into the same stitch and draw up a loop. And you should have 6 loops on your hook. Go ahead and yarn over and go through all 6 loops. Don't chain one, go directly to the next stitch and single crochet into it, just like that. Now we're going to repeat that again. So we're going to do a puff into the next stitch. So we're going to go into it, don't yarn over the first time. So just go straight into it and draw up a loop. And then we're going to yarn over, go into it again, draw up a loop, yarn over one more time, go into the same spot, draw up a loop, 6 loops, yarn over and go through all 6, don't chain one, go directly into the next stitch and single crochet. So this is what we're going to do all the way around. So let's go ahead and put a puff into the next stitch. And then single crochet into the next. Puff into the next stitch. And single into the next. And then we're going to puff. We have 1 stitch left here before the end of our stitch marker. Go ahead and puff into that stitch. So go through all 6, don't chain one. So we're at the end of row 2, and it's okay if it's flipping up. And you still should have 10 stitches. So counting the single crochets and the puffs, you'll have 10 total. Go ahead and move your marker up. Remember not to chain one there. Now we're going to start round 3, and we are going to put 2 single crochets into every stitch around. So 2 single crochets into the first stitch, and then 2 single crochets into every stitch all the way around. So you're putting 2 single crochets on top of the puff and 2 single crochets in each of the single crochets. Do this until you get back to your stitch marker. Alright, so I've made it back around to the end of round 3, and you should have 20 stitches now. And now we're going to do our puff stitch row again. So I went ahead and moved my marker up, and I'm just going to go ahead and single crochet into the next stitch. And then I'm going to puff into the next. Just remember to never yarn over when you're doing your puff the first time you go into the stitch. And you got 6 loops, yarn over and go through all 6, don't chain one, and single crochet into the next. Again, puff into the next. And then single crochet into the next. And we're going to repeat this all the way around. If your work starts to flip up, that's fine. We'll take care of that later. Puff. And single into the next. So I'm going to repeat this pattern of the puff, single, all the way around until I get back to my stitch marker. Alright, so I've made it to the end of round 4, and you should have 20 stitches still. So go ahead and move your marker up. Now for round 5, I'm going to work 2 single crochets in every stitch. So I'm going to jump over here to the first single crochet, and I'm going to put 2 single crochets into it. and then 2 single crochets in every stitch around until I make it back to my starting point. And I'll meet back up with you at the end of row 5. Alright, I've made it to the end of row 5, and now you should have a total of 40 single crochets. So let's go ahead and move our marker up, and now we're going to do the puff stitch row. So we're going to start out with a single crochet into the first stitch, and then we're going to puff into the next. So this is row 6 that we're on. Single crochet into the next, and puff into the next. And this is the pattern that we're going to repeat all the way around. And remember, if your work starts to flip up, that's fine. Single into the next, puff into the next, and single into the next, all the way around. And I'll meet back up with you at our stitch marker. Alright, so I made it to the end of round 6, and you should have 40 stitches still. So I went ahead and moved my stitch marker up, and for round 6 we're going to do single crochets again, but this time we're going to start off and we're going to put 1 single crochet into the first stitch, and then we're going to put 2 single crochets into the next, and that will be the repeat this time. 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and then 2 single crochets into the next. 1 single into the next, and then 2 singles into the next. And we're going to repeat this pattern all the way around until we get to the end of round 6. 1 single, and then 2 singles. 1 single, and 2 singles. And I'll meet back up with you when we make it back to our stitch marker. Alright, I've made it to the end of round 7, and you should have a total of 60 stitches now. You should have ended with 2 single crochets there into this last puff stitch. And let's go ahead and move our marker up, and we'll start round 8. And we'll start off by putting a single crochet into the first stitch, and then we will put a puff stitch into the next, and that will be the repeat now for this round. Single crochet into the next, and then puff stitch into the next. Single crochet into the next, and then puff stitch into the next. And we'll go ahead and repeat this pattern all the way around until we get back to our stitch marker. Alright, so I've made it to the end of round 8, and you still should have 60 stitches here. I made it to my stitch marker, and I ended in a puff. So this is going to be the crown of our hat. We're not going to be increasing anymore. So let's take a quick look and see. We got about 5.5 inches, 5 3/4. So anywhere between 5.5 and 6 inches is about what you want for this particular hat. Now we'll go ahead and, so 60 stitches is now what we're going to have from now on. We're not going to be increasing anymore. So why don't we go ahead and pull, we'll move our marker up. I guess I already did that. Now let's work around and put 1 single crochet. This will be round 9 that we're on. 1 single crochet in every stitch all the way around. Alright, so I've made it to the end of round 9, and I still have 60 stitches. So round 10 is going to start the repeat rows of this pattern. Alright, so for row 10, what we're going to do is single crochet into the next stitch, and we're going to puff into the next, but we're actually going to go below the single crochet to do the puffs from now on. So normally we would have put our puff here, but now we're going to go below it and put our puff in the spot right below the single crochet. So it's right here. See that? Here's the single crochet in the spot right below it, and we just do our puff like normal. That's kind of the difference now in the puff stitch rows versus before. But we make them the same. And then we're going to single crochet directly into the top of the next stitch, and then we will puff stitch into not the top of the next stitch, but right below it, this little spot right here. Go right into it and do your puff like normal. And then don't chain one and single crochet into the next stitch. So you can see it's just the same, except for instead of doing the puff into the top of the stitch, we're doing it right below the stitch. But we're making the puffs the same. Single crochet into the top of the next, and then puff below the single crochet of the next. So here's the next single crochet, puff in the spot right below it. And this is what we're going to repeat all the way around for round 10. Single crochet into the next, and then puff into the next right below. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this up, and I'll meet back up with you when we make it back to our stitch marker. And now that is what it starts to look like. Alright, I have made it back to the end of round 10. Okay, I always gotta make sure. Now we're going to start round 11. And round 11 is just going to be one single crochet in every stitch around. Just like this. So one single in every stitch. You still should have 60 stitches now. Remember, we're always having 60 stitches. One single in every stitch until I make it back to my stitch marker. Just like that. Alright, I made it to the end of round 11, and you still should have 60 stitches. So now what we're going to do is we're going to repeat rounds 10 and 11 until we get our hat a little bit longer. And it's going to look wavy and funny for a little while. Don't worry about it. And remember, you should always have 60 stitches. So for round 12, I'm just going to repeat what I did for round 10. Move my stitch marker up, and I'm going to single crochet into the first stitch, and then I'm going to do my puff into the next, but I'm going to do it in below that single crochet. So instead of going into the top, I'm doing it below. So it's the exact same thing that we did on round 10. Single crochet into the next and puff into the next, but not in the top of the stitch, below it. And single into the next. So I'm going to keep repeating rounds 10 and 11 until I get at my hat. This is what it kind of starts to look like. I guess it'll take a little bit to kind of see the full effect, but I'm going to keep repeating these two rows for a little while, and I'll let you know how many total rows I do here in just a second. All right, so I have done a total, what I did was I've done a total of the from the very first row all the way down 35 rows, and I ended in the 35th row was a row of single crochet, and then I did one more round of single crochet at the end for a total of 36 rounds. The last two are single crochet rounds. Now you could do more single crochet rounds if you want a bigger brim, or you could do less. That's up to you. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead, I'm at my stitch marker, and I am going to jump to the next stitch, and I'm going to slip stitch there and pull up my yarn and clip it off. And then I don't need that marker anymore. And then we can hide any remaining tails that we have, and then we will be finished. Alright, once you get all your tails hidden, that's it. That's all there is to it. I like it. I think it's really pretty. Now remember to look for the link below in the description that will take you to a stitch tutorial to show you how to make this stitch in a back and forth method. That way you can make a scarf to match if you'd like. And also look for the link that will take you to my Facebook page. So if you do make this, you can show me a picture. And one more link will be down there where it'll take you to all my crochet tutorials. I have well over 1,000 of them, all free for you to enjoy. So please don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about the hat. I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye guys.